And a happy new year. I hope you had a wonderful New Year's celebration. I'm sure it was great. Whatever you did, even if it wasn't, it's okay. We're here now. Welcome to 2020. This is the first FM-based video of the year. Certainly not the last. We've got a big year planned. I'm excited about it. And it starts here because a bunch of people have just gotten the game over the holidays. So we've got 10 ways for you to improve. Easy, right? Oh, almost forgot. I'm Zealand for FM Base. We already ran the intro, so I can't use that to separate me telling you who I am from the actual content of the video. But how about this? Content. Now. Okay, now in the content phase, the way I made this video is over the last couple of weeks while I was playing Football Manager, I wrote down 10 things that I was doing now that I wasn't doing when I first started playing Football Manager that have made me better at the game, because it's surprisingly hard, as it turns out, to actually just sit down and think of 10 things that are actually helpful that I didn't know when I started out and have made me better over time. So I just wrote them down. You've met the notepad before, right? That's the 10 things. Right there. On a list. In no particular order. I think I lost my pen, though. Comrade has fallen. In the making of this video, we do this in honor of my ballpoint pen. Here, let me put on my reading glasses. We're going to number 1. Track progress, not arrows. These things are prescription. Right, down to my home in the corner. Here's what I mean. When I say track progress, not arrows, I was the first for many years, and this is a new feature, by the way, to watch a player, and every time I saw the arrows going up, I just assumed that meant that things were good. And I'm going to show you a few examples, and the vice versa, meaning that things were bad. This is Mirko Topic. Now, Mirko Topic is one of my best players on my current Twitch save, which I'm going to plug in a couple of minutes. But if you want to check it out already, I mean, my Twitch link is down there. You can give me a follow. I'm normally playing Football Manager. Shocking, right? Well, Topic is my best player at Bate. And he, a little while, had arrows going down. And I went, oh, what's up with that? You know, he has fantastic potential, or he did. He seems to be reaching it at this point. So I go up here and I check the progress graph. Those down arrows were in this little downward slope right here. Now, obviously, his overall trend is a little better than a few downward arrows, because obviously those downward arrows went away again. Those downward arrows may be a little bit of a sign. Hey, you need to play them a little bit more, and I took that as a sign. But you want to pay attention to your progress graph, not the arrows. Let me show you another example. Here is a hotshot, Valery Gromyko. All the Belarusian ladies love him. He sells a ton of jerseys. He is touted as a future superstar for the Belarusian national team because he is basically the only forward player in the entire country worth a damn. And his arrows are going up. But when you go to development and progress on the basic skin, he's gotten significantly worse this year. So I need to set about figuring out why that's happening. That's a whole separate battle. The progress graph is going to tell you whether a player is getting better or getting worse over time. And it isn't necessarily fooled by young players or old players, because Gromyko is only 23. I mean, really, the only reason he should be getting worse, the only reason for long-term degradation of a player that I could always find was, hey, he's getting old. Some guys age earlier than others. He's only 23, which means there's another factor causing him to get worse, whether it be lack of playing time or he's not on the right coaching regime. Maybe we're not getting along. That's a whole bunch of other stuff. But the progress graph will never lie to you. It's particularly useful in the development center, which is the tab out here on the left side. You can see my superstar wonder kid, Alexander Turlin. Well, that progress graph is sensational. While a guy like Alex Zlatkov, I'm going to need to monitor a lot more, because whatever I'm doing with him is not necessarily working. It is also very helpful for finding players that are over their peak. Take Faisal Al-Badri, for example, the Libyan midfielder. Well, his progress graph's telling me that it just might be time to let him go, even though my brain would typically tell me a 31-year-old midfielder who features for his national team still and has a good set of tools in his toolbox is someone that I want to keep on board. It looks like the ship is starting to take on water. Use the graph, not the arrows. I got no sign of that here, but he's definitely worse than he used to be. The arrows are too reactionary. On to 2. Mentor with one good player. So for this one, I ran a test. It wasn't a big formal test like the sort of stuff we do with tactics, but I just ran a test. We got a training mentoring. I put together 2 groups. I put together a group with a couple of good players, and I put together a group with one good player. Based off what the tip is, which one do you think produced better results and was recommended more often by my staff to put players in? Bingo, one good player. One person that has average influence that is good. And when I say good, I mean high determination, good hidden attributes that you know. For me, that player is Emil Halfredson, the guy from the Icelandic national team. He's 36 years old. He does not play anymore, but he does run a training group with about 8 or 9 talented young players that I have around, and he's fixing some determination issues and some developmental issues with some of these players that just don't have good developmental attributes in my reserve team, who I've promoted to the senior team just so they can be mentored by Halfredson. Where the other group, which has multiple players who are actually almost as good. Now, they aren't all as good, so it's not a perfect test. That group was not recommended as much, and that group did not produce the same kind of results with multiple average estimated influence people. So when you have your young players that still have a light influence because of how important they are to the squad and their different playing time roles, you want to put them in a group with somebody who is old and experienced, and preferably just one person, because then the dynamics are just easier to control. You know exactly who all of the players in the group are drawing their attributes from. It's not a crapshoot, really. Number 3, always have 3 tactics. This is more just a common sense one for you. When you're training up a familiarity with the tactic. And when you have 3 tactics, which is the max allowed by the game, you are working on familiarizing your squad with 3 separate tactics. There is literally no arguable reason to not do this, because more familiarity is better than less familiarity. It allows you more flexibility. Like if I was just training this one tactic and I was playing a team that was better than me and could absolutely expose the obvious defensive gaps that my main tactic has, well, then when you try and make the switch, your team's going to have less familiarity and is not going to be able to execute the tactic as well as you would like them to. Whereas when I'm training 3 different types of tactics, a medium playing a team that's as good as me tactic, a definitely playing a team that's better than me tactic, and the wow, they really parked the bus against me, let's break through tactic, well, that gives me a lot of different preparations, and you can get even more extreme than I do between my team is as good as me and my team is better than me. Opponent tactics. Then you've trained your team into familiarity with all this different kind of stuff, which allows you more flexibility during a match and over the course of the season. No reason not to do it. Moving on. I'll get a lot of groans for this, but actually set your staff. That's number 4. Staff is rather loathsome, and it's something I just didn't handle for a long time, and most people still don't handle, and I don't even handle for my reserve and U19s when I'm streaming, because who has the time to sit through me setting up all of that? If I was playing a personal save, I would handle all of the setting up of all of my staffs, because quite honestly, the game does not spend the time finding players and staff that are nearly as good as could be found more often than not. If you have the game hire your staff is just not going to be as good. Now, this does not have a frontline effect. Like, I don't have a striker that's good at finishing. I am seeing him miss more 1v1s and score fewer goals. This has a behind-the-scenes effect. You will see your progress graphs not going as high. You will get recommendations, you will get loan recommendations, you will get training recommendations that are not as good. Go through the trouble to put together your staff. There are a ton of great articles out there that will tell you how to do it. They'll tell you exactly what to look for each staff role. Set your staff yourself. You're going to end up with a much better group of people. You create relationships with those people in the game and practically, even though you're talking to a computer, and you will start to trust what those people are telling you, because when you have a better loan manager, he will recommend better loans. When you have a better coach, they will recommend better training. It's really simple, but for some reason, it's hard to grasp the enormity of the effect of having better staff and what it can actually do for developing players and making your club better. Right, number 5, and this is just a re-emphasis, listen to them on moves and development. The development center makes this staff that you're now going to be getting yourself even more important because they are giving you all of these tips about player development in this development center, you know, at the bottom, just at the beginning, and how strong your squads are and what have you. And your whole loan screen, we're going to go to this, your whole loan screen, they're talking to you about each player and your different loan suggestions that are popping up at the bottom. The staff, so important. Listen to them. There are a lot of things that you just don't have the opportunity or the time to keep track of. It's just like real life. If you were the manager, you don't have time in your everyday life when you're playing Football Manager and doing everything else that you have to do to keep up with all of these players and advance through more than a year in an entire yearly cycle of the game. So they're there to help you. Always have the final say. Go into staff responsibilities and on transfer moves and stuff, always have the final say. But let your general manager and let everybody else you've signed to go out and sign players, let them go sign those players. And then it comes across your desk and you can say yes or no, depending on what you see in those players, but let them go find people. I've had my general manager, I used to not trust those guys for years, and that's your director of football, by the way, for those people that aren't playing the American version of the game, which is almost everybody. Let that guy sign a few players, and I've had some great signings that I would have never found unless my general manager had gone out and signed that person for me, and then I had the right of approval, and I said, oh, that's a great player. I approved him. Oh, that's a great player. Nice sound, dude. Number 6, stay calm in games. I'm going to come back out here. I'm going to bring up a few examples of what to do and what not to do for my Twitch stream, but it is very important with the whole basis of this game being how you manage a team to not get lost in the result that is happening on the pitch at that moment. Football Manager is all about reacting to information. The entire game is based on reacting to information, and how good you are at the game depends on how well you react to the information. Now, if you happen to lose your mind, then you're doing your team no favors. If you're not paying attention to the information that is being given to you by each break, by each highlight. So I always play on extended highlights. You're going to get more information the more highlights you watch, and who has time to watch the entire match? So you take that information and you apply it to your instructions, to your team talks, to how you're managing the players, who's playing well, who's playing poorly, who has a bad match rating but's actually about to break through, so you should probably leave them on instead of ranting and raving about how they have a 6.4 and taking them off. Just stay calm. Breathe. Squeeze a stress ball. I don't care. It'll help. A lot, actually. Come back down to my corner for number 7. You have understand tempo. This is a big one. And while I find it, I just want to say, if you found this video helpful so far, if I found something or a couple of things that you'd overlooked that are going to help improve your gameplay, then please do hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We do a lot of fun guides, scouting reports, and all that sort of stuff. Tips and tricks and all that stuff. It's all there for you. I'd also love it if you came to hang out with me on Twitch. The link's down below. I already mentioned it, but there it is on the screen. All you got to do is go to Twitch, search for Zealand. I'll probably be playing Football Manager 4 days a week, usually, so. Back to understanding tempo. Now, tempo can be found in the in possession section of your tactic. And what tempo is how much your team is forcing the ball up the field. And you go, okay, so tempo should kind of slide with your passing directness, or tempo should slide, if you're losing in a game, your tempo should be constantly rising. That was the camp I was in for years, and it's not necessarily true. Now, if it's the 94th minute of the Champions League final and you're down a goal, you turn your tempo up to extremely high. But your tempo is going to directly correlate to how much you turn the ball over. So there is some incentive to not have a higher tempo, because your team is not necessarily going to attempt to not score the ball on a very low tempo. They're just going to be safer with how they move the ball. Once you realize this, you'll find that you stay much more competitive much longer in games, instead of forcing your team into making stupid mistakes by ratcheting up the tempo out of frustration. Here we go, back to the pad. Number 8. Quick one, the match review. I don't want to go into training. Once in training, when you go to calendar and you see your whole training calendar here, after each match, right above the recovery that is automatically put into every training area, and just the day after a match, you can click on that empty space behind recovery and any time during that day after the match and do something called a match review, which is an analytical reviewing session of the previous match. It obviously does not exist on any day It's not the day after a match where you do have match previews, but of course those are normally loaded in for you while the match reviews are not. Why? I have no idea, but it exists, and you should always do a match review. Like everything with training, though, you don't know exactly how much it helps. Almost impossible to determine, but it helps the mental side of the game. Some cohesion, too. Number 9, don't have to spend money. Well, that was a coherent sentence that I wrote. Let me just weasel on down to finances. Here's the point I'm making. This is not FIFA. You don't have to spend the money, and I used to think you did. And I think everybody that starts playing Football Manager comes from that FIFA mindset and goes, oh, I've got this amount of money. Let me spend it to make my team better. Ain't so simple, sweetheart. We got a full working economy in this game, and that means that every penny that you don't spend is a penny that you have actually saved to do something else, like, I don't know, build a youth training facility, improve your youth recruiting network, do junior coaching at a higher level. All these important things, training facilities, data analyst facilities, cost money. Money that if I spent my $6 million transfer budget at Bate every year, I wouldn't have. This means when you're considering a transfer, you're not just considering what a chunk it's going to take out of your transfer budget, but what chunk it's going to take out of your overall balance, which you're going to be able to use to spend things. Being in the red in overall balance is no fun, because you can't spend a negative balance. Economics 101. So pay attention to that, and ask your board for things all the time. They can only say no so many times. Sadly, that's not true, but whatever. All right, here I am. Number 10, one you've all been waiting for. What did I write? We briefing to, oh no. Use briefing to gauge team. That makes a lot more sense. Coming out here again, because I'm going to go grab some more clips from Twitch to show you what a tactical briefing actually looks like. That a tactical briefing is that thing that pops up before the match that almost everybody sends to their assistant. That's fine. It actually doesn't affect the mindset of the team that much, but it can affect your mindset, and it's helped me out, especially in European competition, when you don't really know how good the team is you're playing against compared to you. And that really is only half the battle. A tactical briefing is fantastic for figuring out how confident your team is in playing in certain styles. And the more indoctrinated a team becomes in the style, the more happy they will be playing with shorter passing or a higher line of engagement for a tiki-taka or gegenpress, respectively. You go in and you click on all of the options you want to figure out how your team is feeling about using, say, getting stuck in against the opposing team. You go ahead and click on that option, and maybe your team hates it. It comes up in red, or maybe your team likes playing in positive and likes a higher line of engagement, and those will both pop up in green. You know your team likes that. You know that your team is confident that they can play in a positive mentality, where sometimes you try a positive mentality and the team gets red and they say, no, we do not feel confident in that, and you should take note of it. That's it. That's 10 things to help you improve a Football Manager. Let me know if this was helpful in the comments. Let me know if there are other little tips, or if another video like this would be helpful for you. Maybe I can compile some of those little tips from down in the comments and throw them into another video. This is just me writing down some of the things I noticed that I'd added to my game over the last couple of years. So hopefully they help you. I will see you guys soon. Again, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2020. It's going to be a great decade, and by the time it ends, I will have a lot less hair.